I get to peek in to all the different stages from growth to getting there to we're on our way. I get to see in the future. I get to see people who've already gotten there so I can help the guys who are already there. Kind of what's the most efficient way we can make this decision. But a lot of them, right, when they start from nothing, there's always this underlying fear that it's going to go away. So you need to be able to have educated discussions about that because...
Welcome to Builders, the podcast for impact-driven leaders who are done carrying it all and ready to scale with clarity, strategy, and freedom. I'm your host, Alex Snyder, strategic growth architect, creator of the CEO Recode, and second brain to leaders who are building brilliant companies without sacrificing every ounce of their time, energy, or sanity. Each episode, I sit down with bold leaders who've rebuilt, recalibrated, or redefined what it means to lead well and live well on their own terms. We talk messy pivots, leadership upgrades, tactical wins, and the deep personal work it takes to build a business that actually works for you. If you love the episode, make sure you follow, rate, and share it with another leader who's building big and wants to build smarter. And if you're listening and thinking, damn, I need someone in the guts of my business with me, let's talk. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth and define 2 to 3 high-impact shifts you can implement now to regain traction and build momentum. Now, let's dive in. Let's build it better. Welcome to Builders. Jason, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Alex, it's great to be here.
Amazing. So Jason, you're Vice President of Exponent Prosperity Advisors. And as always, I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you are building.
So you said who I am and what I'm building. So I think if you were to ask me what I'm building, I would say the most important thing that I build in my world, day in and day out, is relationships. I mean, that's the core of what I do. And if you were to ask why I get out of bed and what drives me every day, it's connecting and bringing people together and solving problems and coming to them and creating solutions, whether it's through what I do for a living or through my network. So that's really my gift, my strength. But when you ask about what I'm building, right? So that's me building it from that perspective. But what I do every day from a business perspective and what I build, and I'm going to kind of give you an analogy. I'm going to tell you really from a perspective of how I kind of explain to people before they become a client of mine, as I always use the analogy of when you go out and build your home. And if you and I were to go out and build probably a $1.5 million house, right? Like, let's say we're going to go out and build a $1.52 million house. That's a nice house. And you're running a business, you're busy all day long. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to build this house, you're not going to go out and hire a concrete person. You're not going to go out and hire somebody to do drywall. You're not going to go build a foundation person. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to go and hire all these contractors and subcontractors and then every day manage these people while you have your head down trying to build your podcast, your business, the things that you're doing. What's the first person that you're going to go out and hire?
The general contractor.
The general contractor. So what amazes me is when people decide, hey, I'm building a business. And if you ask everybody why they're building a business, not one single person is going to say, because I want to work harder and have a job. Every single person says, I want to build a business because I want an asset. I want to grow my wealth. I want to establish a legacy. They're looking 20 years down the road, but maybe they're buried in the trees today, just trying to grow that thing. But what happens is along the way, as they're trying to build this legacy, they go out and hire a bunch of subcontractors. So they get a lawyer, and so as issues come up, they then go look for solutions, right? Okay, now I'm making a bunch of money. Well, I better go get a tax guy. Oh, well, now I'm making, I don't really understand my financials, so I better go get a CFO. Oh, well, now I've got to figure out how to invest because I got more money than I know what to do with. Let me go get a wealth guy. So they're doing all these different things. And so when you fast forward a decade and you ask them, hey, show me all your stuff, introduce me to your strategy, where you're going, how are you going to get there, what's this legacy look like? They got to go out and start going to each one of these subcontractors and say, hey, give me this piece and give me this piece and give me this piece. So if you're building a couple of $1 million house, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't go and sub out all of this work. You would really look for somebody who could really be the GC over all of that. And so what I do every day is I actually help clients with that. So oftentimes they come to me and they have a bunch of subcontractors, but we try to bring it into one consolidated strategy. So if that person said, this is my vision for where I want my life to be, my wealth, my legacy, my kids, my grandkids, this is where I'm going. We kind of deconstruct that and then make sure they have all the right pillars in place and they're all working in concert, kind of like the GC for their life. So we manage the tax, we manage what that means for their kids, what it means for their grandkids, what does it mean for their team, what are they doing to impact the assets inside their company, how are they going to grow the value of that company. So it's all like one consolidated strategy so that they can at any point in time, if you said, hey, where are you going to be in 10 years? They wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to be rich. They could say, I'm going to actually be worth this much. And this is how much I will have paid in tax. And this is who's going to be with me along the journey. And here's who's going to be with me on my team because I've done this to put them in place. And my company should easily be worth this much if I do the following. And that's what we do.
I love that, Jason. And thank you. That was the best analogy for the Builders podcast.
Yeah. Exactly, right? So, I mean,
so perfect.
Why would you do all that? So
I'm so excited to have you here today because you are, you're a builder and you're helping other builders ensure that they achieve that bigger picture goal, that they have the clarity and really like building their legacy beyond the business, right? And I'm a big believer in, scalability beyond your business, like legacy beyond your business. Like that is, to your point, why so many people, we start things for a reason, but so often it's such a grind at the beginning that you don't have the bandwidth to be thinking sometimes about that bigger picture, or even what I would call like the art of the possible. Like you can't even sometimes dream as big as it could be at the beginning. And if you don't have those checkpoints and that support to really clarify it and break it down into what it would take for that to be true, you can kind of get lost, weaving through. And we're creatures of habits as humans. So, that there's an expression, start as you mean to go on. It's like, if you get so used to working in a certain way and managing all your subcontractors and you're like, well, this is just how it is. I'll just keep getting more of them. Like, you don't achieve that potential. You don't unlock that next level. And it seems to me like what you are doing is really helping unlock that next level.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it. You, I think, work with mostly entrepreneurs. Is that is that fair assessment or predominantly?
Yeah, I would say 9 out of 10 of my clients are going to be business. At our core, we're still a wealth management firm, right? So we manage assets. And so from time to time, I'm taking on a person in my circle who wants me to manage their wealth. And I actually have a team that specializes in that part here at the firm. But the majority of the time when I go into the marketplace, I'm looking for the person whose name's on the front of the building, right? So that's the person that I want to work with. That's the person that I'm inspired to serve. It's the reason why they're the lifeblood, in my opinion, of our economy here. And they're the ones who have a big target on their back when it comes to taxes. So we're the one who, they're the ones that I want to go out and help.
Yeah, I guess my question is, do entrepreneurs need a different kind of set of advisors? Is general contracting the life of an entrepreneur different from an executive who is not, quote unquote, the owner, the name on the front of the building?
Absolutely. Well, a couple of things to think about, right? So if you're W-2, there's not a lot you can do from a tax perspective, right? So they have certain things you can get into, right? You can put money in your 401k. There's different places you can park money. But when you own a business, there's a lot of decisions that can be made from a tax perspective. But let's say you're letting the tax tail wag the dog and you're chasing and pursuing tax savings. But if your objective is to grow and you might need to gain access to capital, as a business owner, you might be making tax decisions that hinder your ability to get capital. So you need to be able to have educated discussions about that, because a successful entrepreneur might say, I want to save tax. So they go get this tax guy who throws this tax widget in them. He says, fantastic, man, my tax guy saved me this much money. But if he doesn't tell them the other side of the story, that when he goes to get capital or goes to get a capital injection to really fuel his business, and he might have saved $100,000 on tax, but he can't get to a $2 million loan to make $1 million in profit next year because he's now shot himself in the foot. Somebody has to tell him that story, right? And so when you really have to be able to ask, where are you headed? What are you going to do? And what are the pitfalls? So for every decision you make, there's a subsequent 2 or 3 decisions that could be impacted that you need to know and you need to be considering. For W-2 employees, right? I'm looking outside my beautiful office here in the middle of Houston, and there's all these buildings and a lot of folks that make really great money, right? $500,000 earners and above. Would love to have that person on a client. But the truth is, they're going to get up, bust their hump, put money in a retirement account, put money in a stock account, and then they get a Christmas card, they get an annual review, and then they move on to whatever's next. And if the market craters, they want to have a call with their advisor. On an average week, I'm typically like just this week, my whole calendar changed in the last 2 days because I had a client call me and say, I found a property. I have to get an offer in. I want to sell this deal. We'd already been talking about it. We were going to sell it, do a 1031 exchange. So there's all kinds of creative strategies inside of that we'd already discussed. But once this deal went live, we have to figure out where are we going to pull the money from? Do we need to go get financing? What type of financing can we get? And then there's about 3 or 4 different layers. And because we're a boutique firm, we're not just like, well, let me look at your retirement account and I'll send you your money. No, we're trying to figure out what's the most efficient way we can make this decision, because we're going to save them hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax. So there's a lot of different moving pieces that are getting made. And I have to go into work to do that. I've been on the phone with qualified intermediaries. I've been on the phone with his finance guys. I've been on the phone with other bankers to see if I can get him a better offer. So, those are the things that we're doing. And when I mentioned my network, how I'm always building my network is because I need to be able to bring those resources to my client because I'm their general contractor. I got to figure out how to really make their legacy as valuable as possible.
I love that. And I'm so excited to dive more into that because the interdependencies are fascinating. But I want to take us back to talk a little bit more about what shaped your journey, your leadership. There's always kind of a why. How did you know that you were meant to build legacies? How did you get to this business? Why now? So I'd love to hear about, the pivots, the mentors, the inflection points that got you to where you are today.
Well, it's actually funny because I had no idea nor plan to do this. It was all really a God thing. If we're talking about how I was grown and raised in leadership, I wasn't raised with a lot of male leadership in my life. And so I think I did what a lot of, I don't want to use the term toxic masculinity, but I'll say that the structure which masculinity is portrayed was exactly what I chased early in my life. So having not been really like an athlete or any of those things, I got young and decided to pursue bodybuilding, muscle, money. It was all about how much could I make, how many women could I slay. That's what I looked out in the world and thought that's what being a man was, and so that's what I pursued. And I did that in the health club industry, and so which was a great industry because it was great. There was a lot of fun. We made a big impact, but the culture in and of itself was you work really hard, you party really hard, and so I actually had some folks kind of pour into me from a leadership perspective, but they made me a great leader. They made me a great producer, but I really didn't have like the foresight to think about what was most impactful and meaningful in life. I thought it was get as much stuff as you can and conquer as many things as possible. In my mid-30s, I had a little girl, changed my life, and I really didn't know, having not had a dad around, I didn't really know what dadding looked like. So I thought it was just make more and more money so she would never have to worry about that. But I actually come to kind of figured out that you actually have to go home and spend time with your family and do things that I didn't see growing up. And so that whole concept kind of started to crater around me. Marriage ended up not working out. Jumped into an entrepreneurial opportunity kind of in the midst of a divorce. Well, actually, the opportunity went first, and then the divorce came, and so kind of got the crap kicked out of me. And so over the course of a couple of years, lost. I didn't lose things because of like a hard hand was dealt to me. I lost things like most entrepreneurially spirited individuals do. I went for something. I had a couple of bad obstacles, got the crap kicked out of me, kind of got down to zero. This is about a decade ago. And then, but at the zero, at the bottom is about what it took me to get clarity on what really mattered. And that was that we have a God who serves us. We have a loving God, and up until that point, I had no really concept of that. I never once thought it mattered. Matter of fact, I looked at religion as a bunch of hogwash. And then but I was willing to listen to it when I had nothing else going for me, and so I sought answers and I found them. And through that process, that ended up bringing me into a circle of men, and these were actually men who were actually teaching me fundamentals about life, right? Like really how you process stuff, how you should manage a home, how you should manage your well-being. That it's not normal, like you should not, when you're stressed out and kicking the ass and working and grinding, that you should avoid the realities of life by coming home and drinking all night long and then powering through with energy drinks all day long. Like that's just like
Mhm.
you actually need to cope and deal with your issues. Like you need to process the stuff that's going on in your world. And so these kind of guys poured into me, taught me how to process, how to deal with that stuff, how to reach to God for answers. And that just shifted me. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. But what's kind of interesting is the guy that really took me under his wing started teaching me the Bible. His best friend is my boss. So we were at a men's retreat. I was telling him kind of my story. And this was a couple of months before Harvey, a few years ago when Houston flooded. And I was trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life. And he said, "Man, you should come talk to me." I came in after the flood. I was actually blessed to be able to put houses together for a few months, which was really cool. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And he said, "Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's how I'm trying to help people." We've been around for years, but we really are only helping and serving, kind of a low key amount of individuals. We haven't really had a real producer like outside sales guy. Would you want to come out and try to make that happen? And I admired this guy, and it seemed like a God thing, and so I did it. And what's kind of ironic was when I got the job, I didn't really know what I was going to do. And this is kind of a cool story. And I know it's long winded, but I think it's
You're
important.
good.
Um, I went to my mom, and she knew she had worked for the city for a long time in this town over here in Houston called Pasadena. And I had asked her, um, I said, "Hey, mom, I need to meet business owners. I need to meet entrepreneurs. And I know you work for the city and you work for the mayor. Could you introduce me to some people? Because I need to meet like these are the people I need to meet." So we start talking, and she says, "Hey, I want you to meet this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy." And I paused. I looked at her, and so when I said I was kind of getting the crap kicked out of me, and guys kind of came around me, well, there was a season where I had ended up in a Bible study with about 4 or 5 guys, and they were about a decade older than me. They all dressed, and I was a kind of a gym guy, and I looked at all these guys and I admired them. They were, we were always going to meet for breakfast, and I was like the young guy and little bodybuilder guy. And but we were there to talk about God, man. They were pouring me about their marriage and about how they were handling things, but I really didn't know what any of these guys do. I just looked at them and thought, man, these guys must be big time businessmen, and and didn't register with me what they actually did. So we did a Bible study for like a year, and then I had moved on. I had moved on from that. I hadn't seen any of these guys in like a year. And so she tells me, "Hey, I want you to meet. These are like the 5 most important guys you need to meet in this town." And I said, "Mom, since you're not going to believe this, I was in a Bible study with those dudes a couple of years ago." So I called every single one of them and said, "Hey, my mom think I didn't know y'all like were big deals, and but I need to come introduce like what I'm doing these days." And they all took the meeting, and I didn't know what I was selling at the time. I just brought my boss to a meeting, and one of those guys introduced me to my first 3 major clients. These are, 20, 30, $40 million companies, $100 million company. And so 2 of them just sold their business for 50 million bucks. And so those were my first clients in the industry, right? Which are, being a new guy, you don't normally get those kind of clients. And it was pretty amazing. And then one of the guys in that Bible study ended up being one of my first clients. He's a very successful general contractor. He ended up being a client of mine. And then the other one of them ran a major organization, which is like a economic development organization. And I ended up running his podcast, which is now translated to a lot of opportunities for me. So um, when I say it's a God thing, really, I mean, like I landed here because a guy that helped me, and it was all during a season when I was really struggling with my identity, struggling with what I was going to do. I had felt like I was just this dumb gym guy who had failed and couldn't make it like in the world because I was failing in business and failing at my marriage, right? Like all that was happening to me, and a whole bunch of guys that just didn't judge me, right? They just came in and loved on me in a time when I needed it. Never would I have guessed, 2, 3 years later, every single one of those guys would have injected some type of impact into my life to where a decade later, like just saying it right now, I know when I get off the phone or we get off this call, I'm going to get my car. I'm going to call every one of them. I'm just going to remind them like, hey, dude, like, thank you, right? Because they were there for me when I was just some guy who was like just reaching for straws. Like, who is God? How does He work in your life? And you guys have your shit together. Like what did you do to figure it out? And then now a decade later, I think I haven't figured it out, but it's just like I'm a different. My life is completely different, all because of that. So sorry that was long winded, but I got to make sure I
You're
tell the
good. You're
story.
good. We're keeping some people, company on their walks, their drives. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's a cool
It
story.
is a cool
How
story.
it
And
lands. Yeah,
what really stood out to me, other than I think entrepreneurship is full of moments of like crisis of faith, not necessarily religious, but just faith,
yeah,
to your point
100%.
of like, what am I doing? Why, oh God, like, where am I heading? But I think it was when we first met, you told me that you are a relational sales professional, that you are a relationship network person. And what I heard from your story is that actually you were that before you were doing this job, and really you were building relationships and building a network before you knew you needed it, which is really the best way to build it, right? It's building it not from a place of, I'm building this so I can sell. It is, I am building this because we are contributing to each other. And I think whenever I've spoken to you, have been very genuine about that, right? And I'm a huge believer. You build relationships for the sake of giving back and contributing. And, I always want to know how I can help people. And I don't always have an
Yeah,
answer when they ask me how they can help me. I'm like, no, no, no. And I think that is really incredible. And I do think from what I know of your journey, that that's a real pillar of it, is that you come from that very, very genuine place. And I would love to know from your perspective, you've talked about relationship building and being somebody who is a relational sales professional. And I really think that is such a core to what I know of your journey, is the genuine nature in which you build relationships with people. And then that's a foundation upon which there's an opportunity for mutual benefit. And I'm just curious how
absolutely.
you've seen that play out for your colleagues, your clients, thinking about our listeners are, entrepreneurs, leaders, founders, people who want to build businesses, people who are in the midst of building businesses.
I think relationships are everything. And when I first started in the industry, in the health club industry, the founder of the company, I met him when I was a young pup, and and I just thought he was the man. Well, at the time, he was the man, right? He's still the man. I mean, he built $1 billion fitness industry, but and he said, hey, man, the secret is you got to be the mayor. And so I took that to heart, and so I just made it a point with whatever health club I went into. I knew everybody. I knew every business within 5 miles. You weren't going to come into my health club and not be able to go down to the restaurant and eat for free. I mean, because back in the day we could trade. So I had free restaurants, every nightclub owner, every car wash, like that. Those managers and owners were working out in my gym, and if you worked out of my gym, and I would tell people, I would say, look, you're a member of my club now. So whenever you need a set of tires or you need this, you don't do anything in this area without talking to me, and I'm going to send you to the right people. And today that still rings true, right? I'm the guy that knows the guy,
Yeah.
and so I And my wife laughs because it doesn't matter what part of town I'm in. Houston's huge. If you've ever been to Houston,
Hmm.
the Metroplex can stretch literally. You can drive from an hour and a half from one end of what would be considered Houston to the other end of Houston, and in both ways, right? East and west, and north and south. And so it's that big, and we can be and all the way up north. We can be all the way down to the beach. We can be all the way to the east and all the way to the west. And if we're in a restaurant, there's probably a 75% chance someone's walking in the restaurant and they're going to be like, "Hey Jay," right? Like so, and it could be a rapper, it could be a guy that runs an oil and gas company. It could be, it could just, you never know, but there's going to be somebody in there who knows somebody. And I take a lot of pride in that. I carry this kind of honor code, I guess. I was laughing. I was watching the Sopranos, and their whole thing is about the codes. And I have this code, right? Like I will walk past, um, if like my wife will get frustrated because I'll be like, no, we're not gonna call that person. I know my guy. Like my guy's coming over and we're gonna talk to my guy and I'm gonna give my business to my guy. And so if you're my guy, I'm gonna make sure, I'm doing work with you. I'm gonna make sure we're getting compensated. And I just think that I don't know. That's been a critical thing for me, and I've loved that. And I enjoy that. It's what brings me true joy, is getting people together and then helping them figure out ways to help each other, is really probably good. And if you think about it from a business perspective, um, it's interesting. But the guys that I know that are having a lot of success, they've they've figured that out. Their ultimate goal is to help other people get what they want, and then it's a
Hmm.
basic leadership principle that you hear. But it's amazing how much when it plays out, it seems to be pretty successful.
Yeah. The value of helping other people get what they want. Like that is such a fundamental
It's
principle.
not rocket science.
I love that you're a guy's guy. You're the guy's guy. Like the guy who has all the guys. It's
I'm the
amazing.
guy. Yeah.
Which sounds like beyond relationships, you're really a community builder. And I think that is also something that is, talked about in different ways, but you boil it down. If you can build community, if you can build reciprocity, if you can build connection and help other people achieve their goals, I mean, that is literally priceless. So,
Amen.
um, I'm curious, you are, a leader and you spend a lot of time around other leaders, and you've talked a little bit about things you had to rewire in your beliefs around, masculinity and showing up in fatherhood. But I'm wondering around leadership, are there things you've had to unlearn? Are there maybe myths you've rewritten as you've grown through this business?
Well, one of the beauties of my business is I get to see people at all different stages. And so the benefit is that my older clients that are in their late 60s and 70s, it's interesting because being, that we're in wealth management, and we're talking about wealth and money and legacy and all this other stuff. A lot of the guys that have built all this stuff around them, they get to this age and they're doing everything they can to deconstruct it all because they built up so much crap that they get to a stage in their life and they're like, man, why do I have five houses? Like I should have one and then just Airbnb because I've got to, I'm getting calls because this roof is busted and then this thing is that, and I don't want to, it's just interesting. They get to the end of their life and they've got more headaches that they're trying to remove headaches. And so then they're always saying, man, I would have, I wish I would have looked at it like build, but also enjoy and also build enough, but not so much that you don't have that your stuff owns you, I guess, right? So there's a slippery balance between all of that, and it's interesting to see as these guys get to the back half, that they're it's like you spend your whole first half trying to build it all up, and then you get to the back half and you're pissed because you got so much crap that you're having. So when I'm kind of walking with the other guys that are behind those guys, I'm telling and sharing those stories. And now, whether or not that impacts them, right? I'm not like, look, if they want to go make a ton of money, I'm going to be happy to manage it. and we're going to do everything we can to help them do it. At the same time, I'm trying to come beside them as a peer and as a friend and somebody who loves them and say, hey, like, dude, like, man, enjoy the ride. Let's pump the brakes. Like, you're killing it. So go do this. Go do that. Go take time out, because I'm telling you right now, I see guys who didn't do that and they're mad about it. So if I get to peek in to all the different stages, from growth to getting there, to we're on our way, to holy cow, I'm about to blow it out the roof, to oh my God, I'm there, to okay, I've done it all and now it's time to sell, to wow, crap, I've got all this crap, and then what?
Right.
99% of them are trying to do everything they can not to screw up their kids, right?
Right.
Because they want their kids to have hunger. They want their kids to be motivated. They want their kids to have so there's this balance between, being successful, doing what you can, and still establishing. But a lot of them, they never thought about it because they were just, a lot of, okay, let me say, guys that I work with mostly are for the most part blue collar, hillbilly millionaires, right? They're guys who have trucks and they pour concrete and they pull wire, and or they dig holes, and things like that,
Hmm.
and they're making a ton of money. Um, and then I have some other more sophisticated folks, but we're not the firm that is like built its lineage on like the fifth year George Bush money here in Houston. Like those firms have been around for 100 years, and those trust fund baby stuff. These are guys who are like probably first and or second generation into this kind of money, and they're trying to figure it out. And then, but so you're trying to help them see as they're getting through that, because like I said, I get to see in the future. I get to see people who've already gotten there, so I can help the guys who are already there. Kind of, I'm like, hey man, is that really what you want? Like when is it really going to be? Because I'm going to tell you right now, what I see is guys get there and they're trying to deconstruct. So maybe it's okay to just. But a lot of them, right, when they start from nothing, there's always this underlying fear that it's going to go away, or that they've got to do more, or they've got to, especially as men, I think there's this thing that's just this constant. Well, if I okay, and it starts in the playground, right? So so I was that dude, right, that on the playground was little. And so I remember, and I'm publicly telling the story so everybody can make fun of me. There was this, like girls mature faster than boys, right? That's typically
Yeah.
normal.
Uh-huh.
So I was like little, like real little,
Yeah.
and this girl like picked me up and like body slammed me in the playground,
Oh,
and I was wrecked. That was it, right? 3 or 4 years, like there's no recovering from that. And
no.
so
No.
you laugh, but then that one kid that could like body slam the chick, that was the girl that went on to be. That's the dude that went on to be like the quarterback in for 18, right?
Right.
So it's that all that starts happening. So you see this, and then you go, okay, well now the odds are even, right? I got out, and it's like, well, we're a fair playing. Like I didn't really have the right odds because I was kind of coming behind everybody, but it's fair playground now. So
Mm.
now I'm going to go do everything I can. I think that gets instinctively wired. So you're either the cool quarterback and you're trying to carry that persona out into the future, or you're striving to be that guy and you're still so as it never stops, if that makes sense. It's almost
Right.
like a perpetual, trophy thing. And then guys, I think I've witnessed this, but a lot of guys in their 30s to 40s will start to pivot, and then that starts to shift. It
Right.
starts to be things really start to have a more meaningful impact, and it's not about trophies; it's about actual value. And then you'll see that pivot. But it's cool to be with people during that journey to kind of watch that happen, if that makes sense.
So interesting. Love the Fight Club reference. Things you own, of owning you.
But yeah,
Well
I
played.
can't believe I told that story. I hopefully people who listen to this that are my peers in Houston don't make fun of me too bad.
Oh, what a great story. What a foundational
Yeah.
story. And actually, it made me think, in a lot of the communities I've run in, and coming up with a lot of entrepreneurs. I think the intersection of entrepreneurship and women is a lot of money stories, right? Like you keep in mind that like one to two generations before, like, my grandmother, like, couldn't have a bank account, right? Like stuff like that.
Crazy. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
women in business, there's a lot of conversations we have around our money stories that, it's one of the things that can limit growth is just we have ingrained beliefs that we don't even know where they came from. But like that's just the reality of like how
Real
things are
stuff.
talked about and what's been real and not having, being able to see in either our family or our communities, women doing the thing. And I think what you're saying is, a little bit the same of like, there are beliefs if these guys are first generation around, that money maybe doesn't last or doesn't stay or that it's not abundant or things, I don't want to get too woo woo, but I'm so curious then based on that, you talked about the incredible opportunity to almost open a time portal for these guys to say like, hey, this is where you are today. And a guy who was where you are 20 years ago is now here. And this is how he's thinking and seeing. Do you also, in addition to, tax and wealth and legal advice, do you provide them with, I don't know, money mindset or, counseling type coaching?
Great stuff. First of all, everybody that I work with is an A type person, right? So, it's kind of it's hard to say that it would be counseling or anything of that nature. It's just it's what we just discussed. It's relational, right? I love my clients, and I would argue that a majority of them love me, and we have a great relationship. So I'm just going to tell them what I've seen, what I experienced. What they do with it is up to them. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to change how they operate, but we have good, meaningful conversations. Now, I will also say this too. Early in my career, I would take any client, right? So, meaning like I would or I would chase anybody that looked like they had a lot of money. And so now, I'm really there's two people who are qualifying at that table, right? Because I'm more interested in who I'm not judging them, but I'm trying to make sure that their mindset is established on the things that matter.
Discerning the
People,
fit.
talent, relationship, impact, legacy. If it's just make a bunch of money and I need somebody to save me tons of taxes and I can and I had a guy that last year was introduced to me. There was a pretty significant transaction going to take place. Could have been a lot of money, but the way that this guy treated his wife in my offices, and this is after we were engaged, so engaged with him, but the way that he treated his wife and his, well, what if I bought this and what if we do this? It was just so just it was just low
Line.
value, right? Lots of money, low value. And I was like, man, I'm not about low value. And so I wasn't going to do low value work just to make a lot of money. And so watching that, I was like, I can't do this for 30 years. So yes, when you talk about counseling, I'm not going to, the people that I'm working with, we're so like minded. We're just having really really meaningful dialogue, and I'm just able to impart what I get to witness. And then oftentimes it's taken to heart because I'm working with people who are already working with the right heart, right? So, and the moral of the story is too. I told that guy, we wrapped up that meeting, and then I called him about an hour later and said, hey, I think it would be best. I'm going to send you your money back, but I just don't think that we're going to be a good fit for you. So I think establishing when you have the right type of people, it's so relational. I'm learning from them and they're learning from me, you
Yeah.
know, and which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think often, I mean, what I heard that was, discernment, integrity. And so often we really are products of those who are around us and we grow as humans through, emulation and things. So curating your environment, which again seems like for you has been absolutely fundamental, right? The people that you are around determine the direction that you're going in. I think that's really, really incredible. And it sounds like probably getting into this line of work and being around your clients who are then introducing you to more clients is also fueling your own growth and your own perspectives as well.
Oh, absolutely. You can't work with the type of people I work with and not be adamant about growing personally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
No, you'll get left behind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, you've talked about the challenges and some of the hitting rock bottom and the changes you've had in how you see your role and things like that. And I really love to talk about success on your terms because I think entrepreneurs and leaders, executives, like so much of it is about not having to follow rules set by other people that you don't align with, right? It doesn't
Right.
mean that we, throw structure out the door, but it's you get to determine your own and what works best for you and
Right.
what is important to you. How has your definition of success sort of shifted? Is it, that there's new pillars, or has just like the way you see each pillar shifted over time?
That's so cool that you asked that question because yesterday I was talking to a coach that I'm considering hiring, and um, he asked me, "What does success look like for you in 3 years?" And I said, it's hard for me to say that because I don't feel like I'm living what I would consider to be my ideal life, right? And for me, I don't have like a benchmark number or thing that I'm chasing. I'm making more than enough money. I'm very pleased with the relationships that I've got. I've got balance. I've got time with my family. I've got time with men and peers and deep folk. Like spend a lot of time in relationships. I'm typically at 2 or 3 or 4 breakfasts a week with guys that I care about before I start my work day, which then I work all day, but then the people in my work I love. And so it's like every day is, like I'm gonna get off this call and I'm going to a baseball game with some referral partners and I care about all of them deeply. And then, and then Friday I've got lunch with a client that I care about deeply. And so it's all day long. I'm just getting fed, right? And the things that inspire me. But then at the same time, yeah, I have to work a lot because I've got a lot of, but it's not work because it doesn't feel like work. It just equates to being out doing what I love to do. And then at the same time, I have time for my health. I have time to travel. I have time, so all of these things kind of work in my favor. And so that so I was able to say, okay, well, what would success look like? Well, it's just achieving other benchmarks, right? I want to become a speaker. So I put that down as a goal. So there's things that are growth oriented, hiring a coach, right? So I'm like, hey, here's where I'm at. I don't want to get stagnant. So let me go institute somebody who's going to help me get to another level. It's taking these different things that, if you're not growing, you're dying. So I don't want to ever get stuck and think I'm good. But at the same time, I think success is for me personally has been able to really look at my life and go, from, I mean, Monday to Sunday, I'm in my world. Like it's everything, there's other things like, would it be cool to do this like you do in the beach somewhere? Like, yeah, that'd be cooler. Right. Or, have a separate home, in the mountains. Yeah, that'd be cool. But like, I don't look at my life and go, well, if I just had this,
Right.
right? Um,
That in
no,
itself,
I
though,
mean,
is, I
I'm
think,
so abundantly wealthy,
yeah.
based on the people that I have in my life, the time that I have in my life, and those type of things.
Mm. So I want to talk a little bit more for those people who are out there listening, thinking like, this sounds pretty cool. And I'm, growing this business. Like maybe I need some advice and, I need a general contractor for my life.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time around objectively financially successful people.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit around, what do you think entrepreneurs and executives need to understand to responsibly scale not just their business, but their legacy. And then, maybe that will take us a little bit more into some of the nuanced things you do around, like you said, tax planning, but also executive retentions, compensation.
Yeah. Well, okay. So first things first is profit. So a lot of folks focus on growth and then they forget profit. And so I think profit so when a business owner starts out, they've got they're going and they're just trying to survive, right? I think if I was to, again, depending on what stage they're in, for most of them, it's I have this goal or I'm tired of this. So I'm going to start my own thing. And then that's what they do. And they're part of the bold, proud, brave people who go out and do that. But they start to drive revenue and they really don't understand how important it is to get to profit. And so in some instances, you have to get revenue and sacrifice profit early on to establish your brand, to get a book of business, to get some clients, to get your foot in the door, right? Sometimes you have to be the cheapest guy to get in and get that deal. Okay, that makes sense. But you can't build your business on that or you're going to get stuck. And so, so I think if you're asking what things are critical, I would say they got to understand that profit first is probably the most important thing they got to grasp early on. Early on, they need to look to fractional and support services. Get around a consultant mindset that there's help out there for you and try to find the right help early on when you need it because so many people they'll keep taking stuff on and they don't I see this all the time. I get to them and they think they're making a ton of money and then we get under the hood and they're really not making a ton of money and you're like, okay, well, that's a problem. Because they don't like you pour concrete for a living, dude. You're not a financial analyst, and you hired a bookkeeper to tell you that you've got it figured out. Well, they're not a CFO. Well, so go get a fractional CFO, or you weren't raised on how to coach and hire. And I have a guy that I'm trying to pursue as a client right now. They're in their 60s. They've been in business for 15 years. That guy doesn't know how to do a professional interview. He's like background check, sniff test, but he makes like $1 million a year profit. Cool, right? So he's making money. He's got a boat, and he's got a nice truck, and he's cool. Well, he wants to go ahead and get to 2, 3, 4 million, and he doesn't know how to do an interview, right? So well, then you got to go get somebody who understands those things. And so I think the second thing that I would really say is understand you need to have profit and then understand that if you don't know how to do it, you don't have to go hire somebody, but there's probably somebody who's fractional or consultant who can come in and help you kind of deconstruct that stuff. And then the third thing that I really would look at is, your health. I don't want to say your health is your wealth, but I believe in it. And so don't sacrifice, you might have to sacrifice in your first 2, 3, 4 years. I know I did, even trying to build all the network and everything that I've got. But at some point in time, that thing's going to break. Yeah. And so I would put some type of benchmark out there that says, hey, I remember telling my wife, hey, I'm going to go this hard, but I kind of set this threshold and then I got there. And then I was like, if I don't get there doing this, then I'm going to go do something else because I can't I'm not going to kill myself forever. I lost my first marriage thinking that way. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put in 2 badass years and then I'm going to, scale down, and so, which is kind of what I did. And now I still work hard, but it's not that so laborious where, Saturday, Sundays, I'm coming home and working all weekend. There's a time for that. But if you establish that as your normal, then you're going to get really you're going to get to a place of unhealthiness
and it will bleed out.
Yeah, it will just bleed out.
Intention, that's a huge thing of what I work on too, is I'm not anti-hustle. There are times you have to hustle when you build a business, when you build a legacy, but understand your priorities and understand how they resonate with your calendar and how you are a healthy, happy version of you. Because also, if you're just like burning out, you can go to all networking meetings you want. You're a shell of a human. Like, good luck building really good connections,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. It's
So it's like,
quality over quantity, right? So
yeah, it's that intentionality of, start as you mean to go on, and then know that there will be periods where you intentionally adjust and then adjust. But like, don't get just caught up in the momentum,
right.
the grind, because it will, yeah, there'll always be something else to do or to build. And, I've been there. I've been there where my health has, been sacrificed. And yeah, like for me, that's a never again moment. And that's a privilege to be able to say that. But like, I will never let my health get where it got at certain points in my career. It's just,
Yeah, I love you figured that out.
yeah, I mean, I like to learn my lessons the hard way. But then I get to pass those lessons on. And so it's investment in my client's well-being.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a master's degree from
Yeah.
Hard Knocks. So
Yeah. So if somebody is out there trying to determine, because I want to make sure that, if they're listening and they're like, oh, this sounds kind of great, I could really, I think that's my next step. How do people know if they're kind of ready to work with you? What, are some of the signs maybe in their business and in their life that would say that they're ready for a prosperity accelerator?
right. Well, um, you know, when you start to get to the end of the year and you've been able to figure out that, okay, hold on, I've paid myself, I've got enough money to cover, the growth that's happening in my business, and oh crap, there's a lot of money left. Like, now what? That's usually a good sign, right? And or you get to a point where you're paying way too much in tax than you want to be. Um, and so you're probably wondering, what should I be doing? Not that you're not necessarily that I'm going to come in and save you the most taxes. To be honest with you, if saving you taxes hinders your ability to do the things that you want to do from a capital perspective, I'm going to tell you the truth, and do that. But either way, like, there's a lot of business owners that are in the grind and the hustle, and if you're not paying a ton of tax, you're not really making a lot of money. So usually my clients are going to be in that 30, 35, up to 40% tax bracket. So it's usually when they start to kind of get that realm where they're looking at their business tax and their business entity and going, okay, I've hit that threshold to where if I got to take a distribution to pay tax dollars. I've got to things, when those things start to become problems,
Mm.
that's usually a good time for us. That means it makes sense. Now, I will gladly talk to entrepreneurs that are a year or two away from that. Startups, unfortunately, they don't even know if they're going to be around in 2 years. So, I'll talk to that person and help connect them to the right resources. I do it all the time, but they're probably not ready for us. But I probably have people in my network that I would help them with. But my clients are usually going to be, you know, uh, they're getting pretty close to. I'm about to start making $1 million a year in income.
Love it. So we'll make sure that we get all your connections, and before we close out, make sure we tell people how to reach you. But we have a little tradition that I like to ask a couple rapid fire questions to wrap up
Okay,
all. You've been
now
so
I'm nervous.
insightful. I love what you've shared, and the fact that you're able to bring just the numerous perspectives that you get exposed to. So it's been so fantastic. Are you ready for a couple rapid fire questions? You can pass, you can answer in one word. These are just
Okay,
ways to get to know you.
rapid fire. Okay,
Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What
Okay,
is one decision that changed everything for you as a leader?
everything for me as a leader. Um, Actually realizing servant leadership is really about serving other people and not about serving people so that they can serve me.
I like that. What does strategy feel like? when you're doing it well?
Oh, that's a great question. Strategy feels when I know that I'm executing on the strategy that I've laid out, I'm not second guessing. So it feels like you know um, whenever you're on a bike and you're shifting gears and
Mm-hmm.
you over like you don't shift right and you get that click 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 thing. That's what strategy doesn't feel right. But when strategy is lined up, I feel like I'm hitting the gear and I hit to the next gear and there's no clicks. All right, it's just an easy bam bam bam, and I can feel the groundwork that I laid is starting to execute the way that I would want it to. That's that smoothness that you gain from good strategy.
Mm. Is there a book, podcast, or person that really cracked something open for you?
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah. Yeah, there was a book by a guy named Terry Looper, and it's called Sacred Pace. It's a Christian book, so some people might not, but even if you're not Christian, the one thing that was really cool about Terry built a big $1 billion company. But prior to that, he had built a multi-million-dollar company and he sold it, but he had a nervous breakdown and because he didn't know what he was going to do next. Kind of that I've achieved the milestone. Now what? It's the playground thing that we talked about. Okay, I'm at the top of the mountain, but now what do I do with my life? And he literally had a meltdown and he realized he had while he got to selling this business, he didn't know who his kids were. There was this laundry list of things that he did. So he said, I'm going to build another business, but this time I'm going to build it without having any sales goals and not let my people work more than 40 hours a week. And he built a multi-billion-dollar company here in Houston doing that, which is really cool. And one of the things that he calls it the sacred pace was, he talked about getting neutral. And so I'm a very emotional person by trade. So I'm like ready aim, and the bullet's already been gone, right? Because I'm just like, let's freaking hammer it. I don't do that now. So reading Terry's book changed me so that if I get a feeling or an emotion, I might still feel that emotion, but I'm constantly going, okay, am I in a place of neutrality before I'm making this decision, before I'm moving forward with this? And being able to do that has helped me sleep so much better. It's given me so much more peace because I no longer feel like you have to. And then also, I know this sounds crazy, but when he said no sales goals, I manage for myself, right? I don't have to report to anybody. I don't really run without a sales goal because I have like an objective that I'm trying to achieve, but disassociating myself with the goal and that kind of mindset
Mm.
where I'm like, okay, I'm going to disassociate the goal and I'm going to focus on the behaviors. So I measure my week and my execution and the things that I do by my behavior, right? If I look back at my day, my calendar, I do a recap at night. I go, I said I was going to do this. Did I do this? I said I was going to do this. Did I did? Oh crap. What took me away from that? And then if I'm doing all these things, like what I've learned is in my business, especially, there's like, I might have three big deals come through all at one time. And then there might be 6 months where I have nothing coming in, but then I got five more deals that show up. And
Mhm.
so because I'm following up with the lead, I'm following up with the people that I met with, I'm staying persistent, I'm going to the networking group, I'm making the calls. So if I just do enough of it consistently, it always kind of adds up. Sometimes it stacks up, sometimes it's sporadic, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, my business, it's gone this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. I probably could do more if I was like obsessed with doing more, but I'm obsessed with what I just told you. I'm living really
Yeah.
my best life. So why would I?
I love what you said. I love that you just said that right before I got on our recording.
I
I
was
was
rapping. I
recording a
wasn't
quick
rapping.
video. That's okay. I'm on a tangent and then we're going to come back. And it was about consistency as opposed to like sporadic excellence, right? It's like consistency. And understanding leading KPIs, like the things that you do, the formula that gets you your outcomes. You don't have to wait to know if you made it. Like you will know if you're on track or not based on
Right.
the leading KPIs. Anyways, I won't tangent us further off, but it's
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
serendipitous that that was your answer.
Cool.
2 more questions. What's something you've said never again to in your business?
Never again to. Um, I will never again chase or I will never again try to fit somebody into my business.
Mm.
That's not a fit, right? So if they're not the type of, and let me say this real quick because I don't want to sound like I'm high and mighty or I'm better than, or so when I say not a type of client or type of fit, you know, if they don't have the capacity to be the right fit as a client, I'm not going to be like, oh, I gotta have a client, and let me try to. I'm just like, no, you're a fit for me. You're a fit for me. You're a fit for my firm. That's who I'm making a client. And if I notice that that's not the case, I'm going to refer them somewhere else or send them somewhere else. Not because we're better than, but because maybe there's just it's not the right fit. They're harmony, right? So if there's not a harmonious relationship, then I'm not really going to do that. I did that early on, and it didn't work very well. You get to a certain place, you're like, this is a square peg round hole.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you had a free weekend and 0 obligations, how would you spend it?
Oh man. Um, it's funny. M- I'm I'm like my daughter's in high school now, and so she just kind of does like she's doing her thing, and then and I know it sounds hilarious because we stay pretty busy, but I get a lot of non-obligated weekends, and we have like this like very like non-eventful thing. It's like date night, some movies, go work out in the morning, cold plunge, catch a little walk when the sun's coming up, read and first thing in the morning. I mean, those are the things that I enjoy to do. And if I could maybe get down to the beach or get down to somewhere or get down out in the nature, and then so I mean, I like my life's pretty simple, man. That sounds kind of silly, but
Thank you so much, Jason. It sounds amazing. What we're doing out here in Playa. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect? And we'll make sure to link today in the show notes.
Look me up on LinkedIn. It's Jason Lee and Exponent. It's Prosperity Accelerator Advisors, but you can just type in Jason Lee and Exponent. You should be able to find me. And then you can email me at jlee, Lee, at exponentx.net. So that's exponentx.net. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Amazing. Jason, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your incredible networks experience with everybody here.
It was a pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's a wrap for this episode of Builders, where we get real about what it actually takes to grow companies that perform without grinding you into the ground. If today's convo sparks something for you, here's what to do next. Follow the show, drop a 5-star review, and share it with someone else who's building big. Don't let it be lonely at the top. If you're ready for more clarity, more leadership freedom, and less of a duct tape and go growth vibe, let's connect. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth. Walk away with a personalized fix-it list that gives you the clarity you've been craving on what to shift now to regain traction and build momentum. For more tools, insights, and my no-fluff takes on leadership and scaling strategically, join the Builders Club, also linked in the show notes. You can also head over to leaderswhobuild.com, where you'll find all the links to peep my creds, see client wins, or just confirm that yes, I went to the gym today. Until next time, keep leading boldly, building smart, and living success on your terms.